G'day there, Ray Corcoran here. In this week's video, we're going to be talking about 7 things that I'm going to be teaching my son about money. In this video, I hope to give you a few ideas if you have kids or you're planning to have kids in future. Some of the concepts that I personally am planning to teach my son about money and help him really understand the main concepts and sort of give him a strong foundation for him to build upon. He's actually only 2 years old, but it is something that I can't lie, I have been thinking about, what would I teach my son about money once he's old enough to sort of understand the concepts. And I really look forward to teaching him everything that I learned, both stuff that I did right and stuff that I did wrong. Along the way. And my goal is really to help him have a strong financial foundation, regardless of whatever he wants to do, at least he'll have a strong foundation, and at least he may still have problems, but they won't be money problems. So with that said, let's dive in. So number 1 is be in the top 5% of whatever industry that you choose. I know that for me, my dad was really good in the sense that he didn't really pressure me to pick one career over the other. He just said, whatever you do, make sure you love it and make sure that you're good at it. Specifically, I think that you should be spending more time than everybody else learning about your craft. So if I'm in marketing, I need to be doing more training courses, reading more books, speaking to more people in the industry than everybody else. Now, there's no official number of books to read or anything like that, but I would expect that my son is allocating more time than the average person into understanding his craft. It's a good way to de-risk your career and make sure that you do have plenty of opportunities at every stage of your career because you've built up a reputation for knowing your stuff. In regards to their career, one of the things that I personally would believe is always saying yes to your manager and being a can-do sort of attitude person. Some people will disagree with this and say that you shouldn't just blindly say yes to whatever your boss says because they'll keep increasing what they ask of you. But for me, to be honest, I found it worked in my career and I built up a reputation for having a can-do attitude. And I don't really care what other people say about this because I know it works. And yeah, you could be taken advantage of by someone that keeps asking for more and more and more, but just leave that company. Ultimately, I'd rather be known for being someone that can figure stuff out and be a problem solver rather than a person that does the bare minimum. You hear about all these people doing quiet quitting at the moment where they're deliberately doing the bare minimum because they hate their boss or they hate their job or whatever it is. For me, I'll be encouraging my son and any future kids I have to make sure that they focus on building a reputation for being someone that can do stuff and is a problem solver and figures out how can I get it done rather than, there's just so many obstacles, I don't know how to do it. And when it comes to working, I will be encouraging my son to work harder than everybody else at the company. You should really be in the top 5-10% of hardest workers in the company. It's important for a couple of reasons. One is obviously building that reputation, but 2 is just getting used to it because, if say my son chooses to have a business later down the track, being someone that has a strong work ethic will serve him well regardless of whether he's in a senior position later or whether he has his own business. Either way, developing that as early as possible is going to be a good thing. And just having that strong work ethic will make you someone that's much more valuable to the company. The second tip that I'll give my son is save 20% of whatever you make and essentially pay yourself first, as a lot of people call it. A lot of people tend to have a savings rate of either 0 or 10% is a common one that everyone says. Generally, I don't like 10% because it's just too small to really get anything done. These days, I have a savings rate, that's consistently over 50%, often 60, 70 plus. And that's a little bit different to how it started out. But I would definitely encourage my son to get used to having a higher than average savings rate just from day one, because you will learn to live off the other 80%. And you might as well get the habit from day one and not know otherwise, rather than be someone that doesn't save any money and then they try to save 10% and it just takes too long to get any kind of meaningful progress. Number 3 is having a 6-month compulsory emergency fund. Now, this is a common one, but I would just encourage my son not to have a 3-month one, but have a 6-month one minimum, if not 12. Generally, the theme with a lot of these tips will be to do more than everybody else does. The standards that you have will kind of flow through the rest of your life. And I think that if you get used to having a bigger cash buffer, you're saving a higher percentage of your money, mathematically, you'll just get to your goals much, much quicker than everybody else that sets the bar a lot lower. Number 4 is an important one. It is reward yourself at every milestone. So obviously being frugal and working hard and stuff can be draining on a person, and it is. And one of the things that I will really impart to my son is making sure that, do the stuff that you need to do, but it's going to be draining and it's not going to be fun sometimes. And it's important that we don't just make it all misery the whole way up the mountain, but we have milestones and rewards along the way.
3 words for you: treat yourself.
And I think this is really important because you create a bit more of a positive association with, if I do the hard work or I do the stuff that I may not want to do all the time, then I get some cool stuff, whether it's material things or whether it's experiences or charity or whatever the hell that they want to do with their money. They get a positive thing to balance out the hard work and all the effort that they're putting into generating those results. And this could be their first $1,000, $10,000, $50,000, $100,000, $500,000, and million, whatever the milestone is. I think it's important to have a reward at every point that is relative, obviously, to the size of that goal. We're not going to just spend crazy money, but it is really important, even if it's something small, like honestly, it could be something as small as spending $50 or $100 or $200 on something. It doesn't have to be extravagant, but I think it's a good way to create that positive reinforcement. The fifth tip that I would give my son is be more like the tortoise rather than the hare. And generally, slow and steady will win the race when it comes to finances. When you're, when you're talking to kids, these are people that have their whole life ahead of them. So they can do the slow compound effect for, they've got a long time for the money to compound. And, they say it's the eighth wonder of the world. And it is very, very true. And for someone that's got a lot of time on their hands and a lot of time ahead of them, they can honestly not even be a fantastic investor. They can invest in conservative things and just let time do all the hard work. And I think that's a good way to do it. There was definitely some times in my early 20s where I was maybe a little bit impatient, wanted things to happen ASAP, and I would try and do more risky things to get there quicker. And it usually blew up in my face, or usually just didn't get me where I wanted to go. And now, years later, I found that just consistently adding to my assets every year, not trying to be fancy or complicated, has made a much bigger impact to my net worth than anything else. So. And the thing is, there's a lot of risk with trying to do stuff that is very, very high return typically. So, it could go great and you could be some hero, or like most people, you're probably going to lose. So it's one of those things to keep in mind. I'll definitely be encouraging just like chipping away to, if I had saved, I spent most of my teens and 20s, the majority of them, not really saving too much, working, but not saving a great deal. And honestly, I could have saved a very small amount, 10% of my 10, 20%, whatever it was. And that still would have added up to a lot of money by the time I was approaching my 30s. So it was something that I think I'll be imparting to my son and any other kids to make sure that they understand, if they just even put a little bit away, it'll always come in handy and it'll always be worthwhile. And I think one thing that a lot of people don't realize is you don't have to be an investing genius or someone that can be an amazing stock picker or some sort of crypto guru or something like that. You don't have to actually get very, very advanced, with some very basic investing stuff, whether you're just investing in basic index funds for a long period of time with a low cost, low expense ratio. Like some of that stuff, you can just keep tipping money in, and over the long term, it'll compound quite substantially. So you don't have to be a genius at maths or investing or anything like that, really. If you're happy to be conservative, take a smaller return and let time do the rest. The sixth tip that I'd give my son in terms of money would be stay in your own lane. Now, what I mean by this is that you're gonna have a lot of people that are giving their own opinions throughout your life, whether it's friends, co-workers, family, that sort of stuff. And a lot of them are gonna be not getting great results with their own money, but they're more than willing to give advice to you about how you should manage your money. And one of the things I probably would have loved to have heard from someone when I was much younger is just to run your own race and work on your own numbers rather than letting other people's opinions pollute what you're trying to do. A lot of the time they may have your best intentions at heart, but a lot of the time they just are talking shit, and you shouldn't be listening to them, especially if they have no real results to speak of. You should be respectfully ignoring their opinion and let them live with their own decisions just as you will live with yours. And ultimately, if your numbers are looking good and you are seeing progress, then you should probably stay on that path. There's no reason to try something different or be super creative. If it's working, it's working. And if someone else does not want to either work that hard or learn about investing, or they're willing to take on substantially more risk that you are not comfortable with, that's fine. Let them live with those decisions, and you just keep doing your own thing and you'll probably do very, very well. In addition to that, one of the things that I would also add to that is just generally never apologizing for trying to set yourself up financially. I have not, most of my friends are relatively supportive, but you do hear like comments from people that aren't like maybe close friends over the years that are just like, oh, why would you do that? Or this person's a tight ass, or this person, oh, just spend some money or whatever, just throw away comments. It's just like everyone has this stuff happen. And ultimately I would say that, don't apologize for you trying to set yourself up financially. Some of these people may be going nowhere in 10 years from now. And you might not realize now because the gap between you is small, but 10 years from now, because of your smart decisions, you're way ahead of these people. And they were saying all this crap, when you were young, and it just doesn't make any sense. So run your own race, and definitely don't apologize for wanting to set yourself up. It makes all aspects of your life so much easier when you've got money. It doesn't mean you have no problems, but a lot of problems can get resolved with money. And the 7th tip is educate yourself about money. Ultimately, you need to be learning about money, and nobody comes out the womb knowing everything about money, but you can learn. I literally learned just from reading lots of books, going to the bookshop and reading for free, and just sitting in the book, like literally just sitting at the bookshop and in the chairs and grabbing a book and sitting there for like literally 2 hours for free as like a teenager and in my early 20s, and just reading stuff. And it doesn't even matter what you read, to be honest. Start reading stuff, see what kind of stuff's popular, see what kind of stuff is the best sellers. Google some of the most popular personal finance books. I'll put some in the description as well that I read early on that I found helpful. Ultimately, like I would be saying to my son, read the top 10 or the top 20, most famous and well-known money books. And it won't tell you everything because money is a huge topic, but it will kind of give you the 80-20 of some of the core concepts of retiring early or building your wealth and all that sort of stuff. And this one's a bonus one. This is probably like a bit of a silly one, but my son, you will not be getting an inheritance unless you make yourself $1 million net worth. So hopefully in a few years, $1 million will be not as big a deal as it is now. But still, I feel like if you're going to get any inheritance, and hopefully if I do my job, it's going to be a good one. But ultimately, I feel like you need to have some sort of runs on the board before you get given any money. So if you're watching this, mate, down the track, sorry about that. But yeah, if you can't make $1 million yourself, then you're probably going to waste my money anyway. So I hope you found that useful. If you found that interesting or valuable, please give it a like. It does help it reach more people on YouTube. And if you want to subscribe, please do so. We do weekly videos on personal finance. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video.